There comes a time in a man's life when he looks in the mirror and sees not just a face, but a question. Is this all there is? That moment is the beginning. Semen retention isn't just about discipline. It's not about abstaining. It's about reclaiming your energy, your focus, your fire. Let's walk through the 7 stages not just as theory, but as a map for the journey. 1. You've already started, or are about to. Stage 1. Realization and awakening. You become aware. Not in fear, but in truth. You see how your energy was leaking through habits you thought were harmless. You understand that your essence is not meant to be wasted. This is the seed of change. Stage 2. Resistance and struggle. The mind rebels. The body aches. The old patterns scream for attention. Relapse may come, and that's okay, because struggle is a sign you're shifting. You're not weak, you're growing. Stage 3. Mental clarity and heightened awareness. The fog begins to lift. You start noticing details in people, in your work, in nature. Your focus sharpens like a blade. You become present, alert, alive. Stage 4. Energy surge and motivation. You wake up earlier, move faster. You hit the gym harder, speak with conviction. You chase your purpose, not distractions. This is the fuel you didn't know you were missing. Stage 5. Emotional stability and confidence. No more mood swings. You feel grounded, calm under pressure. You're not chasing validation, you embody it. Your presence starts to speak before you do. Stage 6. Magnetic aura and spiritual alignment. People notice. They don't know what changed, but they feel it. You walk into a room and the energy shifts. You're aligned with your purpose, with the moment, and you no longer seek the light, you radiate it. Stage 7. Mastery and creative transmutation. Now the energy no longer controls you, you shape it. Direct it into art, into business, into leadership. You've become the alchemist, transforming desire into destiny. But remember this, the path is not straight. You will fall, you will rise, and each time you rise, you return stronger, clearer, more committed. This isn't about suppression, it's about transformation, not control, but command. So walk your path, stage by stage, step by step. And when the world wonders where your glow comes from, smile, you'll know. Would you like this in downloadable audio format or a visual version for presentation? There is a moment subtle yet unmistakable. You might be lying in bed, scrolling through your phone, or standing in front of the mirror, your eyes lingering a little longer than usual, and something inside you whispers, not in fear, but in truth, "This can't be it. There's more in me. I can feel it." This is where it begins. Not with a shout, but with a whisper, a quiet inner voice that says, "You've been giving your power away." Slowly, daily, sometimes for seconds of pleasure that leave behind hours of emptiness. You've chased highs that faded into guilt. You've watched time slip away in a haze of instant gratification. But in this moment, you see clearly. The fog lifts just enough for you to recognize. Your energy is sacred, and you've been scattering it, not by accident, but by habit. And that awareness, that is the first flame. You start to connect the dots. Your fatigue, your lack of drive, that strange sense of dullness in your eyes. You realize it's not just about hormones or biology. It's deeper. You've been leaking the very essence of your willpower, and no one told you. You start to look at your urges differently. Not as shameful, but as powerful, maybe too powerful to keep mishandling. You begin to sense that the very thing you've been trying to hide or escape might actually be your source of greatness. Suddenly, what once seemed normal now feels wasteful. You feel a shift, a sense of urgency, not to fix your life all at once, but to stop the drain. To hold, to keep, to gather what was always yours. It's not about guilt, it's about recognition. You begin to understand. Every time you hold back from release, you are holding on to something more than just fluid. You're holding on to potential, to strength, to focus, to self-respect. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. After the awakening comes the war. And not outside of you, but within. The moment you choose retention, you've already crossed a threshold. But crossing is not the same as conquering. The mind remembers the patterns. The body still craves the comfort of the old rhythm. And now, with every urge that rises, a voice returns seductive, familiar. Just once more. It doesn't matter. You've been good lately. You deserve it. This is the battlefield. And not of weakness, but of conditioning. Because for years, maybe even decades, you trained your nervous system to respond in a certain way. Stress, release, boredom, release, loneliness, pain, fear, even celebration, release. And now you're asking that system to change. At first, the pressure builds. The urges feel louder, more primal. They don't just knock, they pound. And the discomfort isn't just physical. It's mental, emotional, even spiritual. You feel restless, agitated. You question yourself. Why am I doing this? Is it even worth it? Some days it feels like you're losing. You might relapse. You might feel ashamed. You might fall back into the loop, browser history, guilt, delete, promise, repeat. But here's what you start to notice each time you resist, even for an hour longer than before, something shifts. Your will becomes sharper. You start to recognize the difference between the craving and the truth, between what your body wants in a moment and what your soul needs in the long run. This stage is not clean. It's not comfortable, but it is necessary, because it's in the struggle that you confront the parts of yourself that were hiding behind habit. It's where you learn that your urges aren't enemies, they're signals. Signals that energy is building inside you. Energy you've never had to manage before. And now you're learning to manage it, not suppress it, not fear it, but to face it, to feel it, to hold it without acting on it. The struggle is where the transformation begins to take shape, not in success, but in the decision to try again and again and again. Something shifts. It doesn't happen all at once, but it's unmistakable. One morning you wake up and the air feels clearer. Your thoughts aren't scattered like they used to be. You're not reaching for your phone as a crutch. There's a stillness, a focus. This is the beginning of clarity. When you stop draining your vital energy, your brain starts recalibrating. The dopamine spikes that once kept you swinging from stimulation to stimulation begin to level out. And in that balance, something beautiful begins to emerge, awareness. You start to notice things, the way your mind used to jump from one thought to the next. The subtle tension that used to live in your jaw, your chest, your fingertips. You see how easily you used to distract yourself from silence. Now that silence is starting to feel like home. You read something and you actually absorb it. You listen to someone and you hear every word. You walk outside and suddenly you're seeing colors, light, motion, detail, in ways you haven't in years. This clarity isn't just about sharper thinking. It's about being present, rooted in the now, not drifting off in fantasy or regret, not numbing yourself in stimulation. You're no longer watching life through a fogged-up lens. You're in it, fully, with eyes open, and with this awareness comes a new kind of power. Not loud or dramatic, but steady. You're able to focus longer, work deeper, read, write, train, reflect without the constant itch to escape. It feels like the mind, once a chaotic room of open tabs and flashing screens, is finally organizing itself. Priorities rise to the surface. Distractions lose their grip. You begin to operate from intention, not impulse. And when a craving does come, and it will, you see it for what it is. Not a command, not a need, just a wave. And waves pass. You realize the power was never in the urge. It was always in your ability to witness it without being pulled under. This stage is quiet but profound. You start to understand what your mind feels like without noise, without constant stimulation, and for the first time in a long time you feel like you're really here, and then it hits. Like a current beneath the surface finally breaking through. You feel it first in small bursts. You're walking with more purpose. You're speaking with more weight. Tasks you used to put off, you start knocking them out without hesitation. This is the return of raw energy, unfiltered, undiluted, no longer drained through repetition or compulsive release. You notice it in your body, the way you wake up before the alarm, the way your limbs move in the gym, stronger, more coordinated, more explosive. There's a spark in your blood that wasn't there before. Not caffeine, not adrenaline, something deeper. Something real, and it's not just physical. The mind gets sharper. Ideas begin to flow, not forced, but natural. That business plan you kept delaying, that book you wanted to write, that skill you wanted to learn, now you feel pulled toward it. Not pushed by pressure, but pulled by purpose. Discipline no longer feels like a chore. It feels like alignment. Waking up early, eating clean, reading, training, these habits no longer feel like tasks you're forcing yourself to do. They feel like a reflection of who you are becoming. And with this surge of energy comes another realization. You were never lazy. You were leaking. The fatigue, the procrastination, the lack of drive, they weren't signs of weakness. They were symptoms of disconnection. Disconnection from your source. Now you're plugged back in. You're holding on to your essence, and that essence, once contained, doesn't sit still. It moves. It wants expression. It wants movement. It wants action. This is the phase where you find yourself doing more in a day than you used to do in a week. Not because you're rushing, but because you're flowing. And when others ask where all this new energy is coming from, you know it's not new. It was always there. Just hidden under habits that no longer own you. The fire's been lit, and now it wants to move through everything you touch. As the energy settles into your system, something unexpected begins to emerge. Not louder thoughts, not just physical power, but stillness, the kind that roots you deep beneath the surface. Your emotions, once unpredictable and quick to swing, begin to stabilize. The little things that used to irritate you, the sudden mood drops after a binge, the tension that came and went without warning, they all begin to lose their grip. This isn't suppression, it's centeredness. You start to feel like your emotional system is recalibrating. Hormones that once fluctuated like waves begin to find a rhythm. You're no longer reacting from a place of lack. You're responding from a place of presence, and that inner calm brings something else, something quiet, yet unmistakable, confidence. Not arrogance, not ego, but a grounded sense of self. You walk differently, not to impress, but because you no longer need to shrink. You speak more directly, more clearly, not because you've rehearsed it, but because your voice now comes from the core. You stop looking for approval in places that once held power over you. You notice how your posture changes, how your shoulders sit higher, how your chest opens, and your eyes begin to meet others without flinching. Interactions shift. People respond to your calm, your presence, your quiet certainty. You no longer chase energy from others, you carry your own. This makes you magnetic, but you're no longer trying to be. There's no longer a constant need to prove yourself. You're not posturing, you're not performing, you're simply being, and that's more than enough. Even during moments of stress, you recover faster. You breathe deeper. You don't spiral into reaction. You observe, decide, move. That's the kind of clarity that can't be bought, can't be faked. It's earned through holding the line, through respecting your energy enough to keep it, and through facing discomfort without folding. And with every day that passes in this state, you begin to recognize how rare it is to feel truly at peace, and how powerful it is when that peace lives inside of you. By now, something starts to happen that even you didn't fully expect. It's not just what you feel inside, it's how the world begins to respond to you. There's a shift in the air when you walk into a room. People pause. They notice, and they don't even know why. This is the stage where your energy becomes magnetic. Not through words, not through performance, but through presence, through the invisible frequency you carry simply by being full, not depleted. There is a certain glow about you, not flashy, not loud, but undeniable. Your eyes carry depth, your voice more weight. Your movements are deliberate, grounded, unhurried. You're no longer chasing attention, and that's exactly why it finds you. Others may feel drawn to you not just in attraction, but in curiosity. They sense something different, something rare, and that something isn't about image, it's about integrity of energy. You're no longer fragmented. You're aligned, but it's not just social, it's spiritual. In this stage, your connection with yourself deepens. You feel more in tune with your intuition, that quiet voice that once got drowned out by cravings, habits, noise. Now you hear it clearly, you trust it, you follow it. The world starts to feel less chaotic, not because it changed, but because your lens did. You begin to see signs, patterns, synchronicities, moments that feel too aligned to be coincidence. You start to operate with a quiet sense of direction, not because you mapped out every detail, but because you're finally walking with your spirit, not against it. There's a sense of inner harmony. Mind, body, and soul begin moving as one, no longer at war with each other. Desire no longer hijacks your focus. It becomes fuel. Emotion no longer clouds your vision. It becomes insight. Stillness no longer feels like emptiness. It becomes sacred space. In this alignment, you start to lead not because you demand it, but because your energy naturally invites others to follow, and in silence, in solitude, in moments of reflection, you feel a calm you hadn't known in years, a still river running deep beneath the noise. And it becomes clear that the path you're on is not just physical, it's sacred. There is a turning point on this path. A point where retention is no longer a daily battle, no longer a fragile routine held together by sheer willpower. It becomes who you are. It integrates. It settles into your identity, quietly, fully, completely. This is mastery not of the urge, but of the energy behind it. At this stage, you're no longer fighting desire. You've learned to listen to it, to understand it, not to act on it impulsively, but to redirect it, like fire into a forge, like water into a wheel. It becomes creative fuel. Where before sexual energy was leaking outward, now it moves upward, into thought, into vision, into action, into art, leadership, business, service, whatever your purpose is. The energy now flows into it with intensity and focus. This is the essence of transmutation. You begin to realize that this energy was never meant to be wasted. It was meant to be harnessed. It was meant to build. It was meant to elevate. And now you're doing just that. Your creativity sharpens. You have ideas you once never had the patience to see through. Now you're executing, refining, completing. You sit in silence and feel inspired, not bored. You work for hours and feel energized, not drained. There's a quiet obsession with growth, but not out of fear or lack, out of fullness. You begin to see the patterns of life differently. You see where others run from their hunger, while you have learned to ride yours. You've trained yourself to remain calm in temptation, to remain focused in chaos, and to remain powerful without having to prove it. The masculine energy within you, once scattered and restless, now becomes precise, patient, deliberate. You are no longer reacting to the world, you are creating within it. There's a sense of inner royalty, not in pride, but in responsibility. You carry your energy like a king carries his crown, not flaunting it, but never forgetting its weight. You become selective with your time, your space, your presence. Not because you're better, but because you finally know what you carry and what it costs to protect it in this stage. Even the simplest things, your breath, your words, your silence, feel like extensions of your power, and you begin to live not from depletion, but from overflow. The energy once lost in moments of weakness now becomes the force that shapes everything you build. One of the most important truths to understand on this path is that it's never a straight line. The stages, the progress, they aren't checkpoints to cross off and forget. They are waves you learn to ride, cycles you move through again and again. There will be days when the clarity feels crystal clear, when your motivation burns bright, and your confidence stands tall. But there will also be days when the urges return like storms, when fatigue drapes itself over your mind and doubt creeps in. This is not failure, it's part of the rhythm. Every step forward is met with resistance, sometimes from outside, but mostly from within. Old habits, old thoughts, old fears don't disappear overnight. They linger, they test you, they remind you of where you came from. But this is exactly why the journey matters. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about choosing to rise after every fall, choosing to start again, to try once more, to honor your commitment even when the path feels uncertain. You'll learn that each relapse is not the end, but a lesson, a mirror reflecting what needs more attention, more compassion, more understanding. You begin to forgive yourself, to let go of shame, to replace it with curiosity. You realize that growth is messy, unpredictable, and deeply personal. There's no one-size-fits-all formula, no quick fix or secret code, only your own dedication, your own willingness to hold the line day after day. This nonlinear path teaches you patience. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you that mastery is a process, not a destination. And in embracing this reality, you begin to find freedom. Freedom from judgment. Freedom from the pressure to be perfect. Freedom to be human, because at the heart of this journey is not control over an urge. It is control over your relationship to yourself, your ability to stand in your power, no matter what comes. As the journey unfolds, you come to understand that semen retention is not a temporary challenge or a phase to endure. It is a way of life. A lifelong commitment to honoring your energy, your mind, your body, and your spirit. Integration means weaving this practice into every part of your existence. It's no longer something you do for a while and then set aside. It becomes a foundation, a pillar that supports everything you build and become. You notice how your habits start to align naturally with your new way of being. Your choices about food, exercise, rest, relationships, they all begin to reflect the respect you have cultivated for your vitality. You no longer see retention as restriction, but as freedom, freedom from the chaos of impulsive behavior, freedom to create with clarity, freedom to live on your own terms. This stage calls for deep self-awareness. You learn to listen constantly to your body's signals, to your mind's whispers, to your heart's guidance. You recognize that life will continue to throw challenges, temptations, and distractions your way, but now you face them armed with a strong inner foundation. Commitment here is not rigid or harsh. It is fluid and compassionate. You honor setbacks without harsh judgment. You celebrate progress without arrogance. You stay humble, grounded, and open. This lifelong path encourages growth beyond just retention. It inspires you to expand into new areas: emotional intelligence, spiritual depth, meaningful relationships, purposeful work. Your energy, once scattered and drained, now flows into every aspect of your life with intention and grace. And you become a living example, not because you preach or teach, but because your presence naturally inspires others. They see in you the possibility of transformation, the power of discipline, the peace of alignment. In this way, semen retention is no longer simply about self-control. It becomes a doorway to a fuller, richer, more vibrant life, a life where energy is honored, where potential is realized, and where you stand fully awake in your own power.